Al Capone was one of the most feared criminals in the city of Chicago all through Prohibition. His personality was original, but physically he was considered public enemy number one. Capone was born on January 17th, 1899 in Brooklyn, New York. His neighborhood was rough and he was a member of two gangs as a kid. But the big question is, how did Capone benefit from the illegalization of alcohol? Well, it wasn't long until he was making a $100 million a year income from speakeasies, bookie joints, gambling houses, and several other things. The main source of the money? The distilleries. The man who made Capone so famous went by the name of John Torrio. When a rival gang shot him down in a raid, he decided to leave Chicago in fear that he would be killed by his enemies. He was very happy about this because just like any other gangster in Chicago, it meant more money. But how did Capone protect himself? Well, it was simple. He had lots of men, an armor-plated limousine that was impenetrable by bullets. Remember how I said Al was a vicious man? Well, a great example of that was the St. Valentine's Day massacre on February 14, 1929. It took place on 2122 Clark Street, and 7 men were brutally killed, for they were part of George Morin's North Side gang. It is said that Capone fired more than 150 bullets into the 7 victims. The way he did it was he had 2 of his men dress up in police uniforms so that the men would drop their guns. Another question that many people ask is how Capone kept himself in business for so long without getting caught. The answer to this question is also very simple, but most people wouldn't think of it. Capone managed to bribe important politicians in Chicago and the police. Also, the city's mayor was Big Bill Thompson, who was one of Capone's men. He wasn't just a violent man, he also treated people generously and fairly. In fact, he was the first person to open soup kitchens after the 1929 stock market crash. Finally, in 1932, Capone was sentenced to 11 years in Atlanta, one of the toughest federal prisons, for tax evasion. Once his sentence was over, he went back home to Palm Island, Florida, until he died from cardiac arrest on January 24, 1947. Al Capone will always be remembered for his intelligent ways of corrupting Chicago and making it his city.